Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Heather Antoinette Kolar, and I'm affectionately known as Heather H2O. I am coming to you with some really important information because a lot of people have been talking about really concerning contaminants that have been found in our drinking water. So I'm coming here to share some information with folks so we can better understand what's going on with our drinking water, understand what scientifically needs to happen so that you can get clean drinking water. And then I'm going to call you to action to actually do something about it. So if you didn't catch it, it was not intentional, but the acronym is actually USA. We need to understand, we need to apply the science, and we need to take action. So understand the science and take action, USA. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. Today's March 3rd, 2025. And so last week, the end of February, a lot of folks started to receive their drinking water reports, or was also called the water confidence reports. And so if you are not on well water, which most people are not, you are always going to receive a drinking water report, drinking water quality report. And these reports come out similar to how we do our taxes, right? So we have to do our taxes, citizens, we have to do our taxes the quarter following the close of the year. So it's the first quarter 2025. People are starting to do their taxes because the entire year is closed out. So just like that, after the year closes out, then we get the water quality reports. The consumer confidence reports actually is the other name for the year prior. But what's the big problem with that? The big problem with that is the contamination has already occurred and has been occurring for quite some time in most cases. So that's the challenge. One of the things that was really at the forefront of people's conversations, rightfully so, this past weekend is now they're finding, they meaning the water treatment facilities, maybe the EPA, the FDA, I'm not quite sure which one. It's usually the EPA that does this kind of testing on a really serious level, and the CDC sometimes too, and I'll share with you why. Now they're finding the medicine that is women take to have abortions, right? So the Plan B medicine is now found in our drinking water. A lot of people are also saying, well, what about the embryos, the fetuses, the children that are aborted, right? The babies that are aborted, they are, they're in embryonic state at this point. They're usually urinated out, right? When the woman goes to the bathroom, probably microscopic. I'm not an expert in this area, but I would assume if it's a couple of days old, it's microscopic. And that's not so surprising to me because I know how much medicine is in the water, so much so that there's certifications that water filtration systems can have to remove the classification of pharmaceuticals. So we know for a fact that heart medicine is in the water, Atenol. I don't know if that's the full way you pronounce it. I kind of always mess it up. But Atenol, Atenolol, it may be the pronunciation, forgive me. Blood pressure medicine, we know herbicides and pesticides are in the drinking water, and a slew of all other contaminants, which we'll briefly touch on today. So as disturbing as this sounds and is to many people, it's not really anything new. Maybe the discovery of a new form of pharmaceutical is in the water, but I want you to just take a moment and look at everywhere you are, right? Right now I'm in my home office. I'm looking around this beautiful wallpaper I have behind me, my glasses, my makeup, the products I have in my hair, my computer, the light, whatever you want to look at right now, where you are standing. I dare you to find one thing in your sight and even in your memory that has never been touched by water, right? Or hasn't been touched by chemicals, either one, the both of them. 100% of the time, I'll say, you're not going to find anything. And that's because chemicals are everywhere. They're on our skin. They're just everywhere. We live in a chemically contaminated world. It's just what it is. And water is used for everything. Water is used for manufacturing, and water is also used in the cleaning process of everything. So if something's made, even if it doesn't use water, it has to be cleaned, right? And so I emphasize that point to help us really start to think a little differently, actually a lot differently, about what water is in 2025 and what it's been for a long time, actually, right? And so if we go back to the very beginning of time, water may not have been chemically contaminated, but water has always been an issue, right? So bacteria and viruses are naturally occurring problems that we have in the world, right? Bacteria and viruses are everywhere. We have good bacteria. I don't know about viruses, but we have good bacteria in our, like, in our bodies and on our skin. And if you overwash yourself, you can kill your bad bacteria. We have gut bacteria, right? So before modern day water delivery and treatment, let's say at the turn of the century from the late 1800s to 1900, people before that time were dealing with things like dysentery, right? Water being completely contaminated and undrinkable, right? People laugh that in the late 1800s, people would rather drink beer than water. And the reason for that is because the beer was boiled, right? The water and all of the ingredients were boiled to create beer. And in the boiling process, you're actually going to kill the bacteria and viruses. And so water has always been an issue, right? Getting clean water all the time is a very new phenomenon. It's only really happened in the last 100 years. In fact, I was reading an article on a gentleman, Mr. Herndon, right? He is the founder of Atlanta Life Insurance, which is the oldest continuously standing and in business Black-owned insurance firm in the United States. But what he did before that, what made him successful to be able to move into that, is he had a very beautiful, large, high-end chain of men's barbershops. But in the early 1900s, he was successful because they also had baths. So people did not automatically have baths at home. They weren't able to shower at home. And I think that's such an interesting story because he provided a beautiful, upscale, well-kept place with a lot of barber chairs and baths for men to come and groom themselves. And so that's just a reminder that we, even though we have it today in most places in the United States, we have 24/7, 365 tap water. A lot of places around the world still don't have that. So again, we're framing what is water in 2025. So let's be thankful that we have these amazing systems, these amazing infrastructure systems in the United States, where for the most part, you go to a toilet, it's going to flush. You go to a shower or a bath and turn on the water, there's going to be water. You go to your kitchen sink, you go to a fountain, the water is going to be there. Now, let's take another step back. What if there was absolutely no environmental contamination? Zero environmental contamination. We know that's not true for many reasons. There are water main breaks every 2 minutes around the United States, right? So the street opens up, all the water gushes out and comes back down and brings in what? Everything that's on the street. So that's one thing. But if there was absolutely no contamination, the water at the water treatment facility is treated. That's why it's called a water treatment facility, right? So American Water, New York City Water, all of these places that are responsible for delivering water to you, to your tap, they have to actually treat it. What do they treat it with? They treat it with hardcore chemicals. So if you have ever been like, why does my water smell like chlorine? Well, that's because there's vats of chlorine that are poured into your water to do what? to kill the bacteria and viruses, at least most of them, because no water is ever going to be completely free. If you read your water quality report at the beginning of it, it's going to talk about cryptosporidium, chloroform, and all of these other kinds of bacteria and viruses that live in our water, Giardia, right? They're still there, they're just at acceptable levels. So again, going back to water treatment, we have chlorine, we have lye, right? If you know what lye does, lye is going to burn your skin off if it touches you. But put in water, it's actually put to raise the pH of the water so that it is at least a neutral, right? It actually has to be neutral. And so lye has a very high pH. They put lye in the water to raise the pH of the water so that it's neutral. And then there's things like corrosion control. Corrosion control, different kinds, are put into our water at the water treatment facility so that the lead that's in the pipes doesn't come off, right? The underground pipes doesn't come off and get into the drinking water. So it's like a sealant to keep the lead from leaching into our drinking water. Well, if it's doing that to the pipes, what is it doing to your body, right? To your internal organs? That's the question my mom always asks. Shout out to Brenda Toyloy. And so then in places like New Jersey, it's not everywhere, you're going to have chloramine. What is chloramine? Well, chloramine is another chemical that they put into the water to kill the bacteria and viruses. But the funny thing about chloramine, I remember my grandma saying, Heather, don't ever do this. Don't ever do this, right? Chloramine is the combination of chlorine and ammonia. And so my grandmother always said, never mix chlorine and ammonia together. They'll combine, they'll cause a gas, and you'll be knocked out, right? It can really hurt you. But that's what chloramine is. So they put these chemicals in the water to make them deliverable. This may sound crazy to a lot of people, but there really hasn't been anything to date to really change this process. And it sounds crazy because we're just all so used to having water all the time. This is the price we pay. This is the price we pay, right? And so it's very important to be able to now, right when you're going to use the water, minus any external contamination, you need to be able to take all these chemicals out right when you're going to use it, because then there's no further point of contamination. So I want you to ask yourself, does that make sense, right? If you're going to cook food for your family, you're going to make coffee or tea or even give your pet some water, don't you want to make sure that at the point where you're going to use the water is super clean as it can be? It's not going to go through any more pipes. It's not going to have the chance to be recontaminated again, right? So that's what we want to focus on. So remember that point of use. Very, very important. Now let's take a step back and say, oh my goodness, but the water is contaminated. There are a lot of external contaminants in our water, whether it's lead, right? Newark, New Jersey just went through replacing lead lines that are outside. We're not even talking about the lead lines that might be in your house. There are, like I said, every 2 minutes in the United States, there is a water main break. And then you have things like PFOA, PFAS, right? These forever chemicals. Anybody ever hear of these? Right? So these are the ones that are now in the news. Mercury, PCBs, right? This is the chemical that's put into electrical wiring. I'm sure if you looked around where you are right now too, you're gonna see a million cords, maybe. But we all know how often we use electrical cords. Well, inside of there, the insulation really contains a lot of PCB. And so there's so many, right? There's pharmaceuticals, there's pesticides, there's bacteria and viruses, of which there are a ton. There are, how many people have heard of Camp Lejeune, right? There's a big lawsuit going on for all of the military personnel and their families that lived on Camp Lejeune, which is now found to be traced because they knew the water was contaminated. I believe there's 16 or 18 forms of cancer that are directly linked to the water. So am I trying to scare you? A little bit, because it's reality, but the problem is so vast, there are solutions. But what do most people do? Most people know something is not quite right with the water. So, but they don't know what to do. They don't know exactly what it is. How do we fix this problem? Water is life. I can't live without it, right? It's a little scary. The water doesn't look bad, doesn't taste too bad, doesn't smell too bad. And what I like to tell people, again, remember, I'm trying to bring you understanding. We're going to jump now a little bit into the science of it, right? And then we'll have the A for action. So this is the acronym USA. We always want to think about this. The understanding is that water has always been an issue since the beginning of time. Today, we have a lot of chemicals in our water. We have water on demand, right? Everywhere we go, there is water. Nobody's going to spend their day like a lot of children do in foreign countries, spend their entire day fetching water because we need it to live. We're not doing that. So we have this price. It's like the old adage is, you don't get something for nothing, right? Nothing from nothing, leave nothing. Right? There's always a price to pay. And so the price we have to pay today is the chemicalization of our water, voluntarily treating it. It's the environmental contamination, right? And then it's a little bit of all of this stuff combined, right? All the time that can cause us to get sick. So when we go into the science of it, people choose bottled water. What I just went through, really explaining the treatment of our water, that is actually what allows the water to be regulated. So as bad as that sounds, the water treatment facilities are making sure the pH of your water is neutral, which is what is recommended for human beings. We shouldn't be drinking hyper alkaline water all the time. Our systems don't really need that. We do need clean, neutral water. They're trying to kill the bacteria and viruses as much as possible. If you ever hear of a boil water advisory, the bacteria and viruses have exceeded what we call the maximum contamination level. And they're trying to prevent the lead pipes from leaching. So they're regulating it. Most bottled water is going to be tap water that has been treated in one way or another. There's no regulation on it. Most of it, if it's gone through a reverse osmosis process, is going to be very acidic, void of any of the essential minerals that makes water life-giving. And it's probably going to contain microplastics. And so there's a lot of research. CNN just released a report, I believe in January, where there's over 200,000 microplastic particles in bottles of water. And it's really because of the bottle itself, which is a petrochemical, which is not healthy, right? We can all agree that plastic is not healthy for consumption, but it's also the manufacturing process. That pressure to seal the bottles causes some shredding. And it's not just bottled water, it's any kind of product that's in a mechanically sealed plastic bottle. Now, when we talk about what are your options, I have met people who have had a little bit of everything because they're trying to do it, right? You're trying to get clean water. You have the kitchen refrigerator. You have something on your sink. You have a pitcher in your refrigerator. You have something maybe in the shower. You might even have something, at the main coming in from the street, trying to get clean water. I have seen it all. The challenge is that outside of schools and the military, there really is no regulation as far as performance-wise, meaning if a filtration company manufacturer tells the public in their marketing, hey, we can take out bacteria and viruses, we can take out lead, you buy this water filtration product, it's going to take out the chlorine, it's also going to take out PFOAs, it's going to take out mercury and all these volatile organic compounds. They can essentially do it with no liability and not having to prove anything. So the issue is you can't do that with the schools and the military. You cannot do that. You have to prove to them that you can actually take out these chemicals. You have to continuously prove it to them. And it's also managed by the number of gallons of water that are going to go through the system, how often you're going to have to replace the filters, and also how long your warranties are. How long is your product good for? A lot of people don't know that with the pitchers, and I was one of the first ones to have those pitchers. I was one of the first ones to have it, baby. But you should really, I was also one of the ones that would take the filter out and kind of like shake it around and put it back in. The maintenance is very frequent. First of all, they don't take out much, very, very little amount of chemicals, if any. And the maintenance is very high if you do it as prescribed by the manufacturer. If you do what the manufacturer says to do, you'll be changing those filters every week because we use a lot of water. We use way much water than we think. Okay. So I think that that's a mouthful right there. What I am going to show you is a snapshot that I hope kind of helps to build out the mindset, the framework of how you should be thinking about water. Okay, so hold on one second. Let's get this in. So the golden seal that both the schools and the military rely on is NSF. And I like this slide. Let's go up here, right? So NSF is the global leader in testing and certification of water treatment products. It's an apples to apples product comparison. Apples to apples, let's remember that. And certification details matter. This is so critically important, right? I have seen so many products that say tested to NSF standards. It is not NOT. It is not the same as NSF certifications. Many of these products that say we're tested to NSF standards, they are not certified by NSF. So NSF is so important. It's the standard that the schools requires, the standard that the military requires. It's like saying, I actually am a doctor versus I went through all the courses that the doctors went through, right? I'm still, let me be your doctor. You should come to my office. Not the same, right? Especially when we talk about things that can really harm our health or we need serious help. It's not the same. It's like going to a wealth advisor and giving them your money to invest for you versus someone who, they're saying, I'm just like a wealth advisor, but they have none of the certifications, none of the licenses. And guess what? They don't get the audits that the real deal gets to make sure that they are upholding the standards, the certifications, the ethics, right? And they're taking care of you the way that they are marketing and promising to. So this is the same thing with NSF, right? NSF certified products and companies get randomly audited to make sure that what they're selling and marketing to the public is the same thing that they submitted for certification. If you don't really have this certification, they're not going to be audited. And I don't know about you, but we're talking about things that are actually affecting people's health, they're affecting your family's health. If you or anyone you know is immunocompromised, which automatically includes children and the elderly, not only people who are diagnosed with serious critical diseases, but anyone under 6 is automatically immunocompromised. And the elderly are automatically immunocompromised. If you read your drinking water report, it's going to tell you if you are an immunocompromised person dealing with cancer, AIDS, lupus, all of these diseases, or you are a young person, a child, or an elderly person, consult your physician first before drinking this water. It is there as a legal statement for a reason. And so we get a little serious here because this is what we're trying to help people really, really understand. So NSF certification is critical. It is important, not certified too. So we've got 2 more slides here, okay? So 3 more actually. So NSF certifications, what does this mean? Well, there's different categories, okay? And there's another one I'm going to add here because people always ask about it. So we have standard 42, which is aesthetics. These are the things that make your water smell bad, taste bad, and look bad, right? Nobody wants water that's smelly, yucky tasting, or just looks foggy. Nobody wants that. Chlorine and particulate matter. So you can get a standard that's going to remove these things from your water. These things don't make us terribly sick, but nobody wants them in the water, right? Nobody wants them in the water. Now, this is where it gets serious. Standard 53 is for health effects. These are things like arsenic, again, which is mostly naturally occurring, but can be very cancerous. PFOAs, these are the forever chemicals, microplastics. If we talk about Camp Lejeune, these are like tetrachloroethylene, trichloroethylene, man-made products that are used in manufacturing that wreak havoc on our system. We don't want these things in our water. Then you have standard 401. Let's stick with 53 for a second. 53 has been studied for eons, decades, and there are direct links in specific amounts. If you have more than 15 parts per million of lead in your water, and you are especially a child, you will have most likely irreversible neurological damage, which means you will not develop properly in your brain, and it will most likely be neurologically irreversible. Facts, people. These are facts, okay? So the standard 53 contains those kind of chemicals, cause and effect. Standard 401 are things that don't have that real long length of study, but we know we don't want this in our drinking water, right? And so these are things like the pharmaceuticals. You see estrone there, DEET, ibuprofen, naproxen. We don't want these things in our water. This is where the abortion pill contaminant would fall into, okay? So again, these are classes. These are classes. We don't want these type of things in our water. Then we have standard P231. This is for bacteria and viruses. The company that I work with is the only company that has this certification in the world. Quick insert. I started working with families really back in 2012 when I first started working in this space. And, you know, people were either jumping on it or they weren't. But because of the certifications, very shortly thereafter, I started moving into the school space when they would have contamination issues. This is how deep and serious it is, okay? So take this real quickly. NSF has over 23,000 certified products, and I'll add and pieces. The reason I'll add pieces is because I've seen a lot of slick. I actually also run a marketing agency, right? So I've seen a lot of slick marketing out there where a company will say, just put the seal NSF certified. And when I go and look them up, which I know how to do, it's actually not for any of these standards. They may say they have a lead-free piece of tubing in their system. Now, no, okay, that's fine. We don't want lead tubing in the water filtration system, but your NSF certification has nothing to do with the chemicals that you are claiming and marketing to take out of the water. All right. As you can tell, I'm very serious about this. I know people who have, I know entire blocks, okay, entire blocks, both sides of the blocks, where ping pong families are suffering from severe cases of cancer, including the animals, where there has been found terrible water contamination. Okay, there's countless movies about it. You can look them up. Dark Waters, Erin Brockovich, John Travolta played in one. It's very, very serious what's going on with our water, and it's not just entertainment. So excuse me if I get very passionate about this. It's very serious, this certification, okay? So when we look at the certification, you have these listings by single contaminant. So what this means is that there's 1,855 products out there that can take out only cyst. Nobody wants cyst in their water. There's 1,332 that can take out only lead. There's 786 that can take out only mercury, and so forth if we go down, right? So the more complex the chemical usually means the more negatively impactful it is to our health, and also usually the tinier it is. If you understood how small these chemicals are, you would understand why it's so difficult to get them out and why the NSF certification is so important. So you get this. This is buy the products on the right and only the product, right? So you have a lot of choices for just this, a lot of choices for just lead. But the thing about it, just like we started the call off with, is that you don't find out about the contamination until after the fact. So I like to position this as a way for you to actually get the most contaminants out proactively, so that if anything tries to come through, you've already gotten it. If you hear about the contamination, you're like, okay, I'm covered. This list is not going to do that. This list starts to do that. Okay. And so when you start to combine the chemicals, as you can see here, cis and lead, cis, lead, and mercury, cis, lead, mercury, and asbestos, it starts to get good here. Cis, lead, mercury, asbestos, and VOCs. VOC stands for volatile organic compounds. It's a massive list of these. Okay. You start to add MTBE. This was a gasoline derivative that was put in a gasoline that's been banned for like, I don't know, 35 years. But because where does gas go? Under the ground in the storage tanks. If you ever pull up to a gasoline station and the trucks are there, they're pumping gas into the ground. There's so much contamination that it's still in our water after it's been banned for more than 30 years. Then you have the PCBs, you have chloramine, you start to add arsenic, and now you're adding the super duper chemicals, PFOA, PFAS, chloramine. Look how the list drops when you get to adding more than just 4 chemicals up here, right? So we're talking about a very few. And if you're anything like me, you like the best of the best, especially when it comes to your health. And this is the company that 9 times out of 10, I'm going to recommend to people. And so if you have questions, please get in contact with me. I am more than happy to help you. I like to do things in a virtual style. I do have space to do in-person events in New Jersey. And, you know, the understanding is the first step, right? Understanding what's actually going on with water. The science is what we just went over, right? The science is how do you actually get these super, they call them, they're not even, they're submicron particles, right? Which are tiny, tiny, tiny. You can only see them with a microscope. How do you get these out? Your picture is not going to do it. Most of the things in your refrigerator, 9 times out of 10, I would say 9.9 times out of 10 aren't going to do it. Your whole house system really can't do it because, and I'll give you some inside information here, you have to slow the water down a little bit. So remember when we talked about point of use, right? Filtering your water right when you're going to use it. You're not going to use your tub water to cook. You're not going to use you're definitely not going to use your toilet water. You're not going to go to the bathroom to get water. You're going to get all this water to put into your body right at your kitchen sink. So that's where it actually needs to go. Okay. Whole house systems are great. I have one. I don't need super duty clean water to flush the toilet. Not the same as I'm going to put in my body. You do want to have cleaner water, especially if you own a home, to make your appliances last longer, to take better showers, even get rid of eczema and psoriasis. But the level of filtration that you need for your body, for your children's body, for your spouse, for your pets that we're going to actually consume is a whole nother level, right? So I hope that this helps you, as you may be able to understand at this point, it's really about taking action. So what I like to do is to help people take action. We have a lot of different ways that you can do this. The answers are fairly simple to this massive problem. And if you'd like to know more, you can send us an email at heather@cleanwaterchampions.com, heather@cleanwaterchampions.com, or you can leave a message here on our YouTube channel, and we'll be sure to reach out to you and help you answer any of your other questions, as well as get set up with a clean water system that is going to not only protect your family and provide clean, safe, sustainable water 24/7, 365. You're going to save a ton of money. You're going to get peace of mind, and essentially you're going to become a water snob, just like all of my other customers. So I wish you the very best. I hope this helps. If it has helped, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone that you care about. All right. Much love, everybody. Heather H2O signing out.